In this video, I'm going to walk through a selling administrative budget as part of our master budget. So in frame of reference, our starting point is our sales budget. If we were a manufacturer, then we look at what we need to produce, production budget. Then we do our three different components of manufacturing costs, a budget for direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. And that would knock out our production or manufacturing related budgets. We have a whole nother side of our business, though, we haven't looked at to this point, and that's going to be selling administrative or period or non-manufacturing costs. And so this is going to be our selling administrative budget. Unlike our manufacturing overhead budget, selling administrative is going to have a variable and fixed component, so it's going to be broken down by cost behavior. But unlike our manufacturing overhead budget, our starting point isn't going to be production or labor hours or machine hours. Our starting point is going to be budgeted sales. That's going to drive, in particular, our variable component of selling administrative budget. In this scenario, we're budgeting selling administrative for the year and we're breaking it down by quarter. And again, they've already given us our budgeted unit sales. I'm going to work through quarter one with you. So budgeted sales for our first quarter are $15,000. We want to predict what we anticipate our variable selling administrative expenses are going to be. They tell us that the variable selling administrative rate is $250. So take that $15,000 budgeted sales of $15,000, multiply it times $2.50 per unit sold, and that gives us predicted variable selling administrative expenses for first quarter of $37,500. To that, we need to add our fixed expenses. They're going to be a little bit more complicated. They tell us as we work through here that fixed expenses include advertising expenses of $8,000 every quarter. So we're going to list $8,000 for advertising. Every quarter is going to have $35,000 in executive salaries. So we'll list that $35,000. And depreciation, I'm going to skip a little bit here, and depreciation of $20,000 per quarter. So I'm going to skip down a little bit down here to the bottom and list $20,000. So those are going to be advertising $8,000, executive salaries $35,000, depreciation $20,000 every single quarter, all 4 quarters. But then we're going to have some things that shift around. The company is going to make insurance payments of $5,000 in the first and $5,000 in the third quarter. That's also going to be a fixed expense. So I'm going to jump back up here to insurance, and we did list $5,000 in the first quarter. Also, we have some property taxes that are a potential fixed expense, but the property taxes aren't going to be paid in the first quarter. That's why I have nothing listed for property taxes here. It's only going to be a fixed expense for the second quarter. So again, our fixed expenses for quarter one, $8,000 of advertising, $35,000 of executive salaries, $5,000 of insurance, nothing for property taxes, $20,000 in depreciation. That's going to be $68,000 predicted fixed expenses in the first quarter. Add that to the predicted variable expenses in the first quarter of $37,500. That's a prediction of total expenses in the first quarter of $105,500. Beyond wanting to know our total cost or expense of $105,500 to eventually help prepare our budgeted income statement, we also want to know the prediction of cash we expect to spend, because we're also going to have to prepare our cash budget, so that information is going to be useful. So we need to think through, are there any expenses included within here that isn't actual cash that we're spending? The only item that we need to subtract out is going to be depreciation. Depreciation is assumed to be a non-cash expense. So while the $20,000 is included in our $105,500 total cost or expense, to get to our cash disbursements, we're going to back out or subtract out that $20,000 from our $105,500. So our total cash spend that we're expecting for quarter quarter one related to selling administrative is only going to be $85,500. Again, that number would end up being shifted to our cash budget. I'm going to have you work through our second, third, and fourth quarter just to make sure you understand the concepts. But again, just going to go ahead and give you the yearly amounts as a check figure to help make sure you're balancing out for the whole year.